Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chew. Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that will focus on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chew.
Good Wednesday morning, progressives, middle of the week, and welcome to the January 15th edition of Choose Views 2025. We're here, 773-763-9278, Facebook Live, TuneIn Radio, YouTube, Twitter stream, and of course, iHeartRadio. Email me at richard@WCPT820.com. Catch all of our shows by subscribing to our WCPT podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. There you can get all of the good stuff, the long version and the short version of Choose Views. Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive, driving it home with Patty Vasquez. A big picture with Edwin Eisendrath. Out Chicago, and our other shows and interviews. Yes, we get you started here with Choose Views. Then we say, hang on a little bit. We got some more good stuff for you. Make your way over to heartlandsignal.com, our digital platform. See how I slipped that in there today? Get lots of stuff there. Make sure you are today from 2 to 5. Joan Esposito, as guests will include Chris Lehman, D.C. Bureau Chief and columnist for The Nation, and Anders Croy, Communications Director at Florida Watch. Plus, Joan will be giving away tickets for the Capitol Fools show February 1st at the North Shore Center for Performing Arts in Skokie. I think you might see a couple of people there from WCPT, you know. I don't know. Maybe Joan, maybe Richard Chew might be there. We'll see. But, of course, Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive, weekdays 2 to 5 p.m., WCPT 820. And then tonight, holding it down is our wonderful, wonderful, wonderful Patty Vasquez. We'll be driving it home with guest host Carmen Navarre, Jerkin, excuse me. Got to get that right. Carmen Navarre, Jerkin, and their guest, Shell DeYoung Dunn, Democratic Precinct Committee person and Communications Chair of the DeKalb County Democrats. That's a mouthful. And Nashville recording artist Gwen Levy, whose song Barefoot and Pregnant is a finalist in 4 categories at the California Music Video Awards. Plus, Patty will be giving away a stream code for Stephanie Miller's Sexy Liberal Save the World Comedy Tour pay-per-view inauguration special, which takes place this coming Saturday, January 18th at the Warner Theater in Washington, D.C. Special guests Jamie Raskin, George Conway, Harry Dunn, Big Harry Dunn. Harry's a big guy. JoJo from Jersey and more. Driving it home with Patty Vasquez, weeknights, 5 to 7 p.m. here on WCPT. And just a reminder, of course, Choose Views has 2 new podcasts, full episodes and Choose Views interviews. You can get those by getting the links by visiting heartlandsignal.com/choose-views. And, of course, we've got our most recent interviews with Mayor Brandon Johnson, John Fugelsang. So check those out. Listen live weekdays here, 6 to 8 a.m. At 8:20, and tune in from heartlandsignal.com. Make your way over there. Busy day, guys. Today we have Alderman Ray Lopez that will be talking about some things that are going on here in Chicago. And then in the 7 o'clock hour, we have our good friend Kurt Mullett from Hoosier Blue 63 that will be with us. And we'll be talking about a couple things, but we may lean into some things that are happening specifically in the state of Indiana, and also things that on tomorrow we'll be talking with Kurt Herner and John Barber about some of the things that are taking place in Ohio. And in both cases, it's about Republicans taking money from people to put toward richer people. That's the cover that I'm going to give to that. And to that end, that same garbage is happening up in Wisconsin right now. With they're cheating in the sense that they are taking resources or they are changing the rules on the fly. And we've got some really good information about that over at heartlandsignal.com. So I want you guys to plug into that, and I'll be talking about it a little bit more as well. But they're just, Minnesota's got a similar situation happening with their state legislature. in terms of how they are basically, blocking the seating of duly elected folks. That we've got a great clip about that over at Heartland Signal. I'll talk about that at 7 o'clock when I bring that up. But guys, like I said, we got a busy morning. We're going to be giving away some tickets, not so much tickets, but pay-per-view access codes, and we want you to see the Stephanie Miller Sexy Liberal Tour from the Warner Theater in Washington, D.C. live on pay-per-view from the comfort of your own home this weekend. Join Stephanie Miller along with guest Representative Jamie Raskin, George Conway, Olivia Troy, JoJo from Jurors, and Capitol Police Officer Harry Dunn, along with regulars Hal Sparks, John Fugelsang, and Frangela on Saturday night. We need comedy and definitely resistance more than ever for these next 4 years. And if you want to watch Stephanie Miller from home, these are live stream links, not tickets to the show. WCPT can help you out. To purchase pay-per-view access, go to sexyliberal.com and click Save the World Comedy Tour banner. Click on that banner. Contests are running on WCPT are open to listeners 18 or older and residents of the greater Chicagoland, Northwest Indiana area. 1 entry per person, 1 winner per household. Void where prohibited, of course, by law. Listeners may only win or qualify to win once every 30 days. Complete rules are available on our website at WCPT.com by clicking the contest tab. And we'll be reminding you of that later in the show. So just keeping you guys up to speed. So, Henry, shall we hit him with a few Choose Views news items this morning? Probably a good idea. Toyota calls staff back to office. Toyota has told its salaried workers in North America that it expects them back in the office 4 days a week from September. Reports that are coming out from Bloomberg are citing various sources. The order applies to employees at all job levels except a few roles with the ability to work from home on Fridays. The recent RTO movement seen from larger companies may give employers an impetus to shift to more stringent policies in the coming months, some workplace experts are saying. President Biden signs an executive order for AI. By signing this executive order yesterday, he signed that to help speed up the development of artificial intelligence infrastructure, including large data centers and clean energy projects. The order instructs the Department of Defense and the Department of Energy to lease federal land to private companies for the construction of AI data centers, which require massive amounts of energy to support the technology. The agencies will also facilitate grid connection and accelerate permits. Trying to move us forward. That's all he tries to do. That's all he's tried to do. Meta also got some issues with them. Plans to cut 5% of the workforce. They're preparing to lay off roughly 3,600 people, or about 5% of its staff, according to Bloomberg and other news sources, citing an internal memo. The terminations will be based on performance per the memo from CEO Mark Zuckerberg, who is a knee bender, who said he's decided to raise the bar, quote, in preparation for an intense year, some of which you could be stemming the tide on if you just didn't bend the knee. Affected employees in the U.S. will be notified February 10th, and Meta plans to refill those roles within the year. Maybe we should look at how your performances are, Mark. Oil and gas jobs are drying up. Oil and natural gas production has been booming in the United States, but jobs have not gotten any easier to come by, according to the New York Times. Thanks to automation and corporate consolidation, it's really more corporate consolidation that's causing this. U.S. companies that extract, process, and transport oil and gas employ approximately 25% fewer people than they did a decade ago. So see, it's not all President Biden's fault. And the higher pay that once drew workers to the sector has been slowly eroding as well. And it's been going on actually longer than my reporting shows. It's been going on for longer than a decade. But those jobs are starting to slow down of late. Could TikTok be sold to Elon Musk? The Supreme Court upholds a sell or ban ruling on TikTok. Chinese officials are considering options, including selling the social media giant's operations to Elon Musk. Now, I heard that there was pushback that wasn't actually going to be happening. But the fact that they're even talking about it tells me that there's something going on there. And I hope to hell that does not happen. Truly, truly hope that doesn't happen. But just it's out there, and it's something that we'll keep an eye on. And the LA fire high risk that's taking place and all the tragedy that's happening, there are some companies that are taking action. The return of the gusty winds has created a particularly dangerous situation, of course, in Los Angeles, underscored by new fires in Ventura County. The official death toll remains at 24. I think that's escalated since I put this together. And still burning in some areas of Eden, and the Palisades fires are among the most destructive in state history. But companies like Disney that have hundreds of employees under evacuation orders, Netflix and Comcast are among those donating millions to relief efforts, and Starbucks is offering catastrophe pay. So, the folks are trying to do the thing to make things better. Yesterday, guys, I talked about, let me back up. Yesterday, we had a guest on, Henry, and her name is Mary Clark, Merry Clark. Great book, Dandelion Roots Are Deep. And it talks about preservation of the land, preservation of our resources. And it talks also about gardening. And she and I talked about the importance of gardening. We talked about the importance of that as a tool for stress relief and stress abatement. One of the things we also talked about is how we look at our media sources now. And I made the connection that I said, Mary, we have to be the ones that are seeding our growth when it comes to communication and messaging. And we have to be the ones that are taking the lead in what we are communicating, who we're communicating it to, and frankly, how we're going about doing it. So when we come back, guys, I have a clip that I want to play that Henry's put together that will kind of highlight some of the reasoning behind some recent changes that I think you guys will want to hear. The number is 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we will be right back.
It's Choose Views with Richard Chu on WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Hey guys, welcome back to Choose Views. Yes, it is Wednesday. So here locally, our Illinois AG, Kwame Rule, has his sights on Walmart and their plans to roll back their DEI program. And I will be paying attention to that. He, along with 12 other states' attorneys general, sent a letter to Walmart President and CEO Doug McMillon calling for the company to reconsider its decision to phase out supplier diversity programs and close down the Center for Racial Equity, and, of course, their potential to end equity training for staff and remove the words diversity and DEI from the company documents. So they put together a great letter. We will keep our eyes on this. This is a big concern to all of us. The more diverse, the better we are. And that's one of the reasons that I wanted to mention that he's been on the show. We're going to try to get him on again with regard to this that he's working on. So stay tuned. All right, guys. So keeping the train moving. Yesterday, I talked about the gardening impact of building and seeding our messaging a little bit differently as we go forward, and connecting with people that are messaging well. And how can you glean from them to pass on things to others? So, I mentioned yesterday that Jen Rubin, who was with the Washington Post, has made a decision to move on, and we've got a quick clip that Henry put together on her conversation the other night with Jen Psaki.
What drove you to leave the Post? It's been a long time coming, but the central fact is we're at an inflection point in American democracy, and we need a free press that's going to stand up to authoritarianism, that's going to speak truth, and that is not going to equivocate and deal in a lot of false equivalences. And unfortunately, the Post, under its current ownership, has made very clear that they're in the business of accommodating, enabling, giving money to Donald Trump. Can you only imagine Katharine Graham giving $1 million to Richard Nixon or LBJ? I can't.
Hard to imagine.
That is fundamentally at odds with the mission and the purpose of a newspaper, which is to be fiercely independent, to be unshackled by other people's interests. And when you're in the business of balancing a billionaire's corporate interests that have nothing to do with the Washington Post and everything to do with his relationship with the incoming president and the journalistic mission, that's a conflict of interest that is just insoluble. And so I couldn't be part of that.
So she made the decision that it's time to move on. And I give her kudos for that. And largely because of, I like to listen to the tenor in someone's voice, Henry, when they say certain things. And she's fed up. She says she's done. She's like, I can't do this anymore. She said the words, but you could hear it in her voice. So how do I merge that to what we were talking about yesterday when I introduced that she's doing it? And many of you may have already known this, but from a how do we get better standpoint, I think we take we take some, I don't know, energy, maybe use the word, from what she and Norm Eisen are doing, and they're done. And I love the comparison she made to what Katharine Graham would or would not have done. If y'all don't know who she is, do some research in terms of the Washington Post, and you'll see who Miss Graham was, and what she represented to journalism. So that being said, guys, I think that her message to everybody is, no, we have to move forward. So I want to see us do much of the same thing when it comes to our message and our connections to people who are putting out good content and good information. This is an opportunity for us to change not only change the dialogue, but also bring in more people to the conversation. A lot of people have been turned off from mainstream media for a long time. It's just that it got, hyper discussed post the election. A lot of people stopped watching MSNBC, of all places. A lot of people had already stopped watching CNN, and some had already stopped watching MSNBC prior to the election. And we can go back as far as when they hired Ronna McDaniel to be on the show. There was a lot of people that turned it off then. But I'm not just going to pick on one individual, legacy or mainstream media outlet, but the fact that we have others that have done a terrible job and been sued. We know that being Fox and these other groups that have popped up. All I'm saying in that space is, let's start to do our own thing, or amplify that. Those who are doing their own thing, who are created and are seeding and building their garden. Let's make sure we're supporting the efforts of folks who are doing independent work, who are doing work that is maybe tied to another smaller outlet. Let's amplify that. We have a huge opportunity, and I'll share something with you in a moment that was just sent to me. But we here at WCPT is a good example, and I say this every morning: share the content from our shows. We ain't perfect. We don't know everything, but we've got a pretty good handle on what seems to be important to listeners and followers and viewers across the country. So this is an opportunity for you to partner sort of with us by just simply sharing and then amplifying the messages that we know need to be out there. People need to know that they're not alone in this fight these next 2 to 4 years. I had a wonder interview yesterday that we're going to share with you guys tomorrow that talks about why you can't. It's understandable that you need to recharge, but as it relates to the message that we want to distribute and make sure that people have in front of them, that's why one of the reasons that we do what we do here at WCPT, certainly one of my motivations. Now, this was just sent to me, so I want to kind of merge it into the conversation. Tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, President Joe Biden will give his farewell address to the nation. It will last about 20 minutes and to the point. Rather than giving legacy media ratings, let's watch it on the White House YouTube channel. So there you go. And speaking of sharing information with you, yesterday was a firestorm of, I got to be careful with certain words. Yesterday was very heated in the Senate confirmation hearings. And we've got a few clips that I'd like you guys to hear before we get to, at least try to get to one before we get to this break. And then we're going to have the alderman on at 6:30. So Henry's got one put together from newly elected and sworn-in senator from Michigan, Elisa Slotkin.
As the Secretary of Defense, you will be the one man standing in the breach should President Trump give an illegal order, right? I'm not saying he will, but if he does, you are going to be the guy that he calls to implement this order. Do you agree that there are some orders that can be given by the Commander-in-Chief that would violate the U.S. Constitution?
Senator, thank you for your service. But I reject the premise that President Trump is going to be giving illegal orders.
No, I'm not saying he will. But do you believe there is such a thing as an illegal order that Joe Biden or any other president, Donald Trump, could give? Is there anything that a commander-in-chief could ask you to do with the uniformed military that would be in violation of the U.S. Constitution?
Senator, anybody of any party could give an order that is against the Constitution or against the law.
Right. Okay. So are you saying that you would stand in the breach and push back if you were given an illegal order?
I start by saying I reject the premise that President Trump will be giving any illegal orders at all.
Mike, this isn't a hypothetical, okay? Your predecessor in a Trump administration, Secretary Esper, was asked and did use uniformed military to clear unarmed protesters. He was given the order to potentially shoot at them. Helos flew low in Washington, D.C. as crowd control. He later apologized publicly for those actions. Was he right or wrong to apologize?
Senator, I was there on the ground.
And
I saw
I understand, and I respect that.
I've been there.
But you're about to be the Secretary of Defense
that was involved in that moment. I
was he right to? So he was
legality and the Constitution.
Sir, was he right or wrong to apologize?
I'm not going to put words in the mouth of Secretary Esper or anybody else.
He said them himself. You don't have to. What are you scared of? Did he do the right thing by apologizing?
I'm not scared of anything, Senator.
Then say yes or no. You can say no.
The laws and the Constitution in any particular
Donald
scenario.
Trump asked for the active duty 82nd Airborne to be deployed during that same time. Secretary Esper has written that he convinced him against that decision. If Donald Trump asked you to use the 82nd Airborne in law enforcement roles in Washington, D.C., would you also convince him otherwise?
I'm not going to get ahead of conversations I would have with the president. However, there are laws and processes inside our Constitution that would be foul.
So this is a theme, and we're going to play others through the course of the show. And so I'm going to say a couple things. They're going to tap dance. He tap danced. She gave him an opportunity to say yes or no. That's all you had to do is say yes or no. And she gave him a couple of opportunities. What I like about her is that she will not be talked over. And here's what she does. People have to understand her national security background, her legal background. She understands how to prosecute. She understands how to get to an answer by coming from a different angle. And then if the person doesn't answer the question, they essentially box themselves in. Now, to that end, good job on her. We've got others, and we're going to play them for you hopefully later in the show. But this is what we have to be prepared for. There are going to be more people that are going to be brought in, and the Democrats have got to do this. The Democratic elected officials in the Senate on a national level have got to do this. Those in the House have got to do this. There is no other choice. And all I'm going to say is Representative Jasmine Crockett was asked by Nancy Mace to step outside. Nancy Mace should be censured because that was making an affront to a duly elected member of Congress on the House floor. You want to take this outside. That she should be censured for that. If she doesn't, and she won't be because she's going to get the privilege that is afforded to her because of what she looks like. But that being said, the Dems need to keep fighting the way that they fought yesterday. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to be speaking with Alderman Raymond Lopez here in Chicago, 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we'll be right back.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chu on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey guys, welcome back to Choose Views, 773-763-9278. So I was sent a text that said, to be fair, it was in a conference room, not the well of the House. Okay, that's true. Thank you for that cleanup on aisle 7. It could have been in the hallway. She made a threat to another sitting member of Congress. You want to take this outside. That's an affront. She should be censured for that. It doesn't matter where it was, whether it wasn't, in the well of the House floor. Thank you for that help on cleaning up on aisle 7. It doesn't matter where she said it. She got triggered, and, there you go. All right, guys, we got to keep things moving forward. This morning, we have one of our wonderful, and I say all of our aldermen and alderwomen here in the city of Chicago are wonderful. I don't mean that as a disrespect to anybody or not praising someone else, but we have from the 15th Ward, Alderman Raymond Lopez with us this morning. Good morning, Alderman. How are you doing today?
Good morning, Richard. How are you and your listeners holding up in this cold weather?
Oh, man, why you got to talk about the cold weather like that? I mean, don't you think we all know? Most mornings, Alderman, I try to give a quick to everybody, but we're so packed this morning. A quick, hey, be safe out there. Don't get stupid. Give yourself a few extra minutes. Warm up the car. If you're taking public transportation, step carefully when you get off the bus, to train or whatever. All those things. And I forgot to do it this morning because it was so doggone cold. Yeah.
Well, now you got it in, so we're good.
There we go. So listen, you are, like always, in your time as an alderman, you've always taken on not the easy, popular issues, if you will. And I applaud that from any of our leaders. And even within our own party, sometimes you got to push back against folks at our own party to say, hey, I think about this a little bit differently. It doesn't mean that we're arguing all the time, but just, you see certain things in a slightly different way. And so applause to you for that, because you have had a career of saying, maybe not, or I don't quite agree with how that's coming down. And some of your, ways that you presented things with regard to city council. But on this current issue this week with regard to the gunshot safety technology, talk to us a little bit about that, why it matters not only in your ward, but why it matters in your mind for the city of Chicago.
Well, I think what we saw when the mayor decided to cancel the former gunshot detection technology that the police were using very unceremoniously and without an immediate replacement, left communities like those that I represent in a lurch, left our police in a conundrum. How do you help keep people safe when you don't have the technologies to alert you when a gunshot has gone off, especially at a time when we know that people are not calling 911 the way they used to? The days of people calling 911 for anything suspicious all the time have long since passed. And we know that gunshot detection technology, however you want to call it, has helped police and first responders render aid to thousands of people and identify hundreds who've been killed when no 911 call was ever made. And I think it's important that we get back to having some technology that our officers can use. And after the mayor's announcement last year, a number of technology companies started reaching out to many aldermen just to say, hey, we know that things are changing. If you are interested in learning more about our products and services and our capabilities, we'd love to meet. And I met with about half a dozen of these types of companies just to see what was out there, because you have to always be on the lookout for what's the latest and greatest. I'm sure all of your listeners know that, you can have a cell phone, but when the new iPhone comes out, everyone's running to go check to see what it is. This technology is no different. So what this technology does in our pilot, it's not just acoustic technology. This is a three-pronged coordinated technological program that includes gunshot acoustic and infrared technology. So if a shot goes off, it'll hear and verify it through the infrared with it's an ability to identify where the muzzle shot came from. Coordinated camera technology, which basically pivots all city and partnering cameras to the vicinity of where the gunshot took off so that we can start recording and gathering evidence, possibly offenders fleeing. And what I'm most excited about, automated drone deployment from within the community so that we can begin having an aerial view of what's going on all at the same time without any kind of human interaction, because all of this is fully automated and would feed directly into the local police district to give them the best information possible when a gunshot is detected.
So what outside of your ward, what do other citizens in other wards think about this? And I think we all have to be fair in the conversation. It can be applauded and liked in one part of the city or one ward, but not so much in others. So what research, what conversations have you had? Because I know from talking to people myself that there are thoughts about this on both sides of the issue. And then I want to get back to the 911 point that you brought up.
Sure. Look, we know from the conversations about ending ShotSpotter that there were proponents and opponents of that idea. We know there are individuals like myself who support increased technology, who support adding more tools to the toolbox for police officers. And we know there are other individuals who do not support this, who believe that other approaches to reducing violence are necessary more than trying to detect when gunshots happen to render aid to victims. Those are all their arguments, as well as the other argument with regards to false positives, that technology doesn't know how to differentiate between a firecracker and a gunshot. We did that demonstration in plain view this week. And the other part of that with this new pilot that we're introducing in the community is that the reason that we're having it both acoustic and infrared system is because you want to eliminate false positives. You want to make sure that the information is correct that you're sending officers to. And there will be some that argue that this just increases policing in minority communities or that this is going to be a waste of money. First off, let me just say, without technology, we're still going to have gunshots in communities like Back of the Yards, which is an overwhelmingly Latino community. Gunshot detection technology isn't going to stop that because this is just detection. We can address the causes for the generational gang life through other means, but for right now, this is just focusing on the detection and the ability to go to a scene to determine if we need to render aid or if we could catch an assailant. When it comes to the cost, the city of Chicago budgeted in 2025 roughly $9 million for technology of this fashion under this administration. Now, do I believe that we're going to see all that $9 million used and gone out the door? I highly doubt it, because there's a current bid process that the mayor has in place, which has basically requests for information going out now. By early summer, we'll have requests for proposals to see what the city can do in terms of some of the technology, and we won't actually see anything installed and functional probably until the end of summer. And as you and your listeners know, Richard, the propensity for gun violence spikes in the warmer months. So we're not even going to be up and running in time, even with what the mayor's doing right now. So I think that having pilots like this is a good thing. It gives us the opportunity to experiment with what's going on with the technology that's out there. We don't have to commit because this is only a 6-month pilot. So if it works, we can reevaluate and go from there. If it doesn't, so be it. And we're not paying for it.
Yeah,
it's totally free to the city of Chicago. So.
And I think that's where a lot of people get stuck, Alderman, is that they see this, going to your point about budgeting, they see this as once again a spend of money that doesn't have a result that's positive. Why do it? But if they're, and that's what I think, and I said this to Mayor Johnson last week, we had him on. I said, listen, all of y'all need to do something a little bit better. And I'm going to call it as I see it. All of y'all need to talk about what you're doing and let people know more readily what you're working on, because this is what the feeling is out here. People don't see, they see that their visual of the Aldermanic City Council administrative process in Chicago is that all y'all do is fight. You don't get a doggone thing done. Everybody's fighting. Speaking of violence and not getting things done. And that's where I feel, and many of my listeners, our listeners and followers feel, talk about this. Let us know. Because a lot of people would hear about this program, Alderman, and they go, well, that's just going to be a waste of money. But if it's a pilot program that then will have some evidentiary information and data, then I think people can go, okay, I think we can get behind that, and let's make the results of the pilot, if I'm understanding this correctly, publicly known.
Yeah, we're not doing this in a vacuum, and it's not meant to be a secret. That's why we announced it now, because we want to make the public aware. We want to share what we're working on. We want to show what the vision is, and we also want people to know that as a city, and particularly me as a leader who clearly is outspoken on many of these matters, I'm not beholden to this setup. I just want to see if it works. Yeah. And when you're in a situation such as this, you have to be willing to try and experiment. You know, there's a sad commentary about government now is that government's afraid to try things out of fear of failing.
Right. That's
well, if you don't
true.
try,
yeah.
How do you know what works? You know, we're always looking for the most perfect, cookie cutter program out there, and this doesn't work like that. And to be honest, when you think about the various neighborhoods, and when you think about the various topographic and demographic interiors of communities, they're all different.
Yeah.
So to simply put out a one-size-fits-all RFP for gunshot detection technology, how do you treat Uptown the same as you would Englewood, or downtown the same as you would Brighton Park? Their buildings are different. Their acoustics are different. Their technological needs are different. Response times are different. The infrastructure is different. So you have to be able to pivot and manipulate what you're proposing to fit the needs of the local residents. And I think that's how you can accomplish that with these pilots in a way that makes sense, and come back 6 months later and say, okay, here's what worked, here's what didn't. We didn't like drones. We didn't like this. We like this. We like that. Take it all in, because if you want something that the police definitely need, and you need to restart the conversation because of all of the narrative politics that went on to dismantle the first generation of it, then you have to just have a very open and robust conversation. I've never been afraid of the truth, and I think it's a misstep when you try to manipulate it. Just put it all out there. Chicagoans will come to the same conclusion naturally, because we all know 2 + 2 = 4. Just show them where 2 and 2 are.
Yeah, I think that one of the challenges that a lot of people, and I want to compliment something that I read about the program. I'll compliment that first, and that's the if I understand this correctly, the indoor-outdoor detection is also a big part of this technology, if I understand that correctly. So if a gunshot, because most people think I'm going to say most people, I'm speaking for everybody, I don't mean to do it that way. Oftentimes, is it your understanding, to ask a question, that when people think of gunshots and the technology that can benefit in detecting where it came from, they think of what happens external to a building, whether it be a house, apartment building, a business location, that they think about it externally rather than internally, or outdoor versus indoor. So there's part of the technology is designed to detect indoor shots as well. Am I right or wrong about that?
The origins of this technology is from indoor gunshot detection. Okay. So we can expand the network of sensors to be both indoor and outdoor, like in public spaces. Mm-hmm. But it does make it difficult to detect, and this is true of any technology, when it's inside a private residential space.
Right. Yeah, that's what I wanted to get to. And so where I was going with a thought before is, you said earlier about 911 calls are down. And I could use some common sense and some assumptions, but I don't want to be anecdotal necessarily. But why do you feel, and then what does the evidence show? So there's two different things as to why 911 calls have gone down. And if there's specific areas where they've gone down more than others.
Well, I think, and again, just based on my experience, I have 3 different police districts on the southwest side of the city of Chicago. I have the 7th district, which basically covers Englewood. I have the 9th District, which goes from Chinatown to Canaryville, Bridgeport, all the way to my house in Brighton Park. And I have the 8th District, which is basically everything west to western, all the way to the edge of the city limits. All 3 districts, 911 calls are down. And I think this is something that did not start with Brandon Johnson. I think it is something that has started since about 2020 or so. And I think part of that is also as not necessarily because of technology, but I don't think technology helped us, because I think what people got accustomed to was, one, if shots were being heard in districts where they had this technology, we told people that we have this technology. We told people police are monitoring it. We told people that we can determine within 3 feet where a gunshot happens. So that kind of reinforced in people's minds, well, if you're already listening, I don't need to call. We also know that there's been a very different cause for why people don't call 911, and that is because we simply don't have the manpower to respond to all calls in a timely fashion. That's the truth. If you're not a high priority call, if there's not a body on the ground, you're going to be waiting a while for police to show up, because oftentimes our shifts are in backlog from the previous shift and it just keeps rolling. So you have individuals who previously would call 911, and we have had where individuals have a robbery in progress and they're waiting 45 minutes for a police officer to get there. That also has an impact, because that is a recurring theme over the years. People stop calling because in their mind now it's been ingrained, no one's going to show up.
Is some of that, though, a staffing issue rather than the technology that's going to determine where the gunshot came from? I mean, I've been around for a minute, and I've been an employer and done all that. Technology is not going to solve a manpower issue, right?
No, not at all. But you asked why people don't call 911. It's not a technological issue. If you don't have the bodies to send to a call, then there's going to be longer wait times. Private industry. If someone if one of your customers are in front of you making an order, but the point of sale guy has to go in the back and make whatever is being requested, it's going to take longer to put that product in front of the customer.
Right.
Same goes with 911. And the point of that was that it is causing a change in behavior, because people aren't seeing what they were accustomed to seeing years ago, even 10 years ago, where officers responded in a much quicker time frame. And we know the evidence shows that our response time has gotten longer across almost every category of 911 call, with the exception of guns or shootings, when someone can identify a victim being present.
Got it. Okay. Because I guess my question, the basis of my question was, is you probably get this oftentimes, fixing one thing by not addressing putting something in place when not addressing a core issue isn't a solution. It's patchwork, legislation. So I'm just kind of looking at that and saying, staffing is at the core. If there's more people to serve, then there's going to be, it's like when we go to the airport, if there's not enough folks there to help you get through the process, it's going to slow itself down. And not to demean, shootings or anything that's 911 related. But I get what you're saying about that part of, if we don't have the staffing there, what would be nice, this is where I'm going with this, Alderman. What would be nice is to see both succeed.
And let me just say, we know that we have vacancies. We've advocated for the staffing, but we've had administration now and administration before now who both have refused to staff up accordingly. Under the manual administration, for example, we would have 100 cadets and a line of recruits waiting to get in to the police academy every month. We'd have classes 100 strong. I think our last class had 17 police officers. Now, we know that there's more to that than simply the administrations, but that is a definite issue that needs to be resolved, because you could have all the best technology in the world if you've got no one to respond to it. It's not going to help you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad to hear you say it that way, because that's always my observation and my beef with any sort of legislation where there's a fix without a dig to the core to find out how we got in the first place. Let me ask you this other question, and you talked about this as it relates to what citizens are thinking. Are you feeling confident that after this pilot and if this works and the data's there, that there will be enough push from the citizens. Because ultimately, I put responsibility in our laps as citizens that are not elected officials. We're all citizens to say this is what we want and this is how we want things to be. Do you feel that the citizens are going to be behind this type of presumably the success of the pilot program? Folks are going to say, yeah, well, I'm raising my hand. I'd like to see more of that.
33 aldermen voted in support of this, but more importantly, 70% of their bosses, the voters, support some sort of technology to assist police officers in detecting gunshots in their neighborhoods. So I know that this has broad popular support. This concept, not necessarily pilots, but the concept of gunshot detection technology has broad support across every ward, every community throughout the city of Chicago. The problem that we're going to face, to be perfectly blunt, is that we have an administration and a mayor who is not concerned about implementing this in a way that is timely or effective, and is going to do whatever they can with members of the administration or their allies to pivot and change what the results are from what they were designed to do to what they want to reimagine them as being capable of. And we saw, and I say that because we saw that with the previous provider, ShotSpotter. The argument went from, well, yes, it brings people in, but it's not stopping crimes. Well, it's never meant to stop crimes. But that is why we're being very clear with our pilot in my ward to say exactly what the goal is of this, so that there's no wiggle room. Whatever the data shows, either you're going to meet the metrics will meet what we're talking about, or they won't. But you're not going to have any room to try to backpedal and change if we are successful just because you don't want to implement it. People want to see more tools. They want to see innovation. They want to see next generation technology used to keep them safe. The only thing that's going to stop us is the political will to actually execute, even when we don't agree with it politically.
So it sounds like galvanizing those 33 other areas is going to be, kind of what your superpower is, to make sure that that 70% has a louder voice. I mean, I'm a fan of all of you guys because I know the work is hard, but I'm not a fan of when, we're not collectively moving in the right direction. But it sounds like you may have the support to get a change done. And, hopefully that's going to be the result. If the technology's pilot proves to be, gives the results that you're looking for. The other side of this is, what if they don't? Then how do you deal with it?
Then you start to try something new.
Okay.
I don't necessarily believe that even if, let's say, hypothetically, this doesn't work the way it's envisioned, or there's problems with the technology, or that there's drones taking off when there's no gunshot, whatever the possible errors or missteps may be, I don't know. It turns into the Terminator and takes over the world. I don't know. Aside from the Terminator scenario, mistakes, there's a very real possibility that we're not going to make the mark. Now, we're confident that we're going to see some benefit, but if we don't, that's okay too, because we tried something, because we're putting something forward for the entire city to see that, look, we're not hiding anything, we're not manipulating anything. I have no problem saying we didn't miss it, that we
didn't hit the
failed, because that's a sign of leadership too. Yeah. I can admit that if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And I'd rather know now than on a citywide scale where an untested, unproven system completely would fall and I'm out $10 million.
Yeah.
Because that's the path that we're going on currently, and I don't think that's the wisest way to move forward.
Well, I think the superpower part of this conversation is if the technology is going to work and it's broadly supported, then we've got to support what's broadly supported. We've got to get behind what's broadly supported, irrespective of what the counter voices might be, whether they be in the administration directly or they be in other aldermanic wards that don't side with what the majority is saying. As I said in the intro, Alderman Lopez, you've made your bones, as they say, on pushing back on issues and speaking about what you believe in and what you think is right for not only your ward, but the greater city of Chicago. So I appreciate you taking time to be with us this morning to talk about the technology and this pilot program. And I definitely want to have you back to talk about it in the future based on how things do play out, because that's going to be the real litmus test, is what's the evidence show. So what else is going on in your world on this cold day?
I think I'm getting my boxing gloves on to the city council, so I don't want to disappoint your listeners for the fight that they're going to see. We have some interesting votes coming up today, whether we're changing the welcoming city ordinance or if we're going to lower the speed limit to 25 miles per hour universally in the city of Chicago.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
It's going to be a fun and exciting day. Well, and then on a side note, I just want to say that I find it interesting that everyone who bemoans pretextual police stops for things like running stop signs and speeding are now going to put that on everyone across the city of Chicago. So we'll see how that plays out today.
That's going to be a big one. Thanks for being with us. Alderman Ray Lopez of the 15th Ward of the city of Chicago. Thanks for being on Choose Views this morning. We look forward to having you back in the future, okay?
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too. Bye now. Yeah, I mean, he's one of those aldermen that says to the mayor, and you guys heard me last week with Mayor Johnson. I said, look, y'all got to talk more. We need to know more about what's going on. It can't always be about just fighting. It's got to be about fixing stuff. It's got to be about what, like I said to Mayor Johnson, what are you doing to give the city of Chicago and other and the region a sense that you're working with the other members of city council as well as the governor to what I think is one of the big conversations is how we're going to protect ourselves from the incoming federal administration. And I wanted to ask Alderman about that, but we were talking about the technology. So stay tuned, guys. Stay tuned. We're going to have more of our local politicians on, and we're going to talk more about the tough stuff. And my goal is to get them to work together to get stuff done. That's my goal. And hopefully I can have an impact on them working it out. So there you go. All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break. 773-763-9278. When we come back, we will be talking with our good friend Kurt Mullett from Hoosier Blue 63. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chew on WCPT 820 AM, where facts matter. Take it away, Richard.
Hey, guys, welcome back to Choose Views, 773-763-9278. Great having Alderman Ray Lopez with us in the 6:30 hour. Let's kind of, as always, on at 7 o'clock, we talk a little bit about what's happening over at over at Heartland Signal. Sorry about that, guys. We have a ton of Heartland Signal on X audio or clips that you guys will want to check out. We've got a few that we're going to be playing here, and there's others that you can pull up. But just to give you the quick rundown, newly elected Indiana Attorney General Todd Rokita says he will make Indiana a truly free state where we can raise our children as God intended without the interference by woke schools, doctors, and courts. We are no longer vaxxed or masked. Okay. See, this is what y'all voted for on a state-by-state basis. We're going to talk with Kurt Mullett in a moment. National Republicans are calling to hold up disaster relief in California. We're going to talk about that a little bit more after we have Kurt on. But in one way, we've got Republicans in states saying this is how God intended things, but at the same time, we get Republicans doing a wholly hypocritical thing of what God would do, if you want to believe that. Jesus, Allah, Buddha would help the least among us. Come on now, Republicans, you all are just, I got some words. Believe me, I wish I could be like Jasmine Crockett, because, child, I would have said the same doggone thing just like she did. Anyhow, Minnesota State Rep Melissa Hortman slams Republicans for their refusal to come to a power-sharing agreement with Democrats. You all should check that clip out. It'll blow you away. There's so much there that at Heartland Signal, then heartlandsignal.com on X and videos that we have and links. You guys should check them out and share them. Do not sit on them and be selfish. Make sure that people have a chance to see them if they are in your network. So make sure you make your way over. We want you to see Stephanie Miller's Sexy Liberal comedy tour from the Warner Theater in Washington, D.C., live on pay-per-view from the comfort of your own home this weekend. Join Stephanie Miller along with guests Representative Jamie Raskin, George Conway, Olivia Troy, JoJo from Durs, and Capitol Police Officer Harry Dunn, along with regulars Hal Sparks, John Fugelsang, and Frangela on Saturday night. We need comedy and resistance more than ever for these next 4 years. And if you want to watch Stephanie Miller from home, these are live stream links, not tickets to the show. WCPT can help you out. To purchase pay-per-view access, go to sexyliberal.com and click the Save the World Comedy Tour banner. Contests running on WCPT 820 are open to listeners 18 or older and residents of the greater Chicagoland, Northwest Indiana area. 1 entry per person, 1 winner per household, void where prohibited by law. Listeners may only win or qualify to win once every 30 days. Complete rules are available on our WCPT820.com website and by clicking on the contest tab. So get over there and get those streaming opportunities. Okay, guys. Check out Joan. Check out Patty. Check out our programs today. Of course, Joan from 2 to 5. And check out Patty from 5 to 7, driving you home. They both have got great guests. And both Joan and Patty will be talking also about the streaming opportunities for Stephanie's show this Saturday in D.C. So there you have it. All right, no further ado. It's Wednesday, and that means our good friend Kurt Mullet from Hoosier Blue 63. Kurt Herner probably just fell out of his chair in Akron, just fell to the floor. Good morning, Kurt Mullet from Hoosier Blue 63. Wow.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I'm just laughing like trying to get everybody and everything in today. But no, how are you doing this morning, man? Are you freezing? Are you?
Oh, I'm okay. I just have it's. I don't know, Richard. I don't know what to say, man. The last couple of days, you go up and down. I don't know about you, but one day I'm feeling great. Hey, let's do this, and then I start reading, and it depresses me, and I just get to the point to where it's like, wow, there is so much garbage that is going on that we have to try to pay attention to and talk about, that it's absolutely overwhelming. And it's just hard to understand how we got here. I mean,
we got here incrementally, Kurt. We got here incrementally. You said something on a number of occasions, and that is, I'm going to try to position this all in one. First of all, we all have to unplug every now and again and get back on the horse. We have to do that. That's just a humankind. It's part of who we are. So I'm here with you on that. But how we got here, in my opinion, my observation is that a lot of people weren't listening and in disbelief a decade ago, 2 decades ago, frankly, 3 decades ago. There were people yelling from the rafters, we got problems. So you've heard me say this oftentimes. Eric Grant and I on the family meeting have said this before. Eric said, we've been saying to folks, there's monsters in the closet. And frankly, we've been saying, hey, there's monsters out in the yard. Now they're in the living room. Now they're in the closet. Now they're under the bed. Now they're in the sheets. Folks like me have been yelling. Folks like you, in a great measure, have been yelling that we get these issues for a long time. And a lot of people were either comfortable in their privilege or arrogant to say, nah, come on, Rich. Come on, Kurt, shut up, dude. It's not that big of a deal. Come on, man. It's not that big of a deal. And repeatedly saying that. And be honest with you, Kurt, they weren't necessarily people from the, quote, political right. On a local level, on a regional or national level. They were people that were part of our own party that were saying, come on, guys, it's not that bad. Look at all the things I can't tell you how many times when I would be hanging with people, and I know we got some things we're going to talk about, which is part of the bigger conversation. But, Kurt, let me just put it this way, and many of y'all have heard me say this before. When President Obama was elected in his first term, there were a number of people that proudly said, I voted for Obama. Everything's going to be all right now. And they were people who wanted to be proud of the fact that they voted for the black guy. Okay? Whether they said it or they didn't. But that's what they were proud of. They voted for the black guy. So whatever, need to be absolved or whatever issues they had with race, they felt that that was the way to fix it. And then they didn't show up in the midterms. And then there was this carnage that started to take place. I go back further, though, and say part of how we got here, Kurt, is folks just have not paid attention. And they haven't, to your point, you said this last week, that the Democrats have, lost their fight. And part of the reason that, Jasmine Crockett, to use an example, is such an highlighted representative in House of Representatives and Congresswoman is because she comes ready to fight every doggone day. And that's the voice that they're trying to squelch the fastest. But she's unrelenting. And so we've gotten here, Kurt, because not enough people on our side have been willing to collectively stand up. I called out the communications bill and issue and what that was going to do to us. I called it out in 1992. I said, this is going to be a problem because I studied communications law. I said, this is going to be a problem because if you have now Musk trying to assumingly buy TikTok, when you consolidate the message, you're done. Yeah. So,
and it already,
So it's one thing that's got dotted lines, and I'll shut up and let you talk. The one thing that has happened,
you're fine,
is that we as progressive liberal Democrats have not taken the call seriously to hear when there were certain people that were saying, look, y'all, we got problems. They weren't taking it seriously enough. And then incrementally, the right said, well, they're not paying attention, so let's go get this. They're not paying attention. Let's go get that. That's how this has happened. It's not rocket science. Too many people that are calling themselves smart people haven't paid attention to what regular folks have been saying. Look, there's monsters in the closet. So there you go. That's me.
Well, your reference to you believing that in 1992 and seeing how long it has taken for it really to grasp hold is the proof in the pudding that policies and legislation take time to actually have an effect where people can see them, okay? And this is one of the things that just blows me away with these fool MAGA that, as soon as Trump was inaugurated, look at this economy. And, they immediately give him credit for everything. There's nothing the guy did during his administration that had anything to do with the positivity that was going on in the economy and in our country. That was all President Obama and his policies. We are now, at this point, with the way inflation and prices of goods, we're feeling the effect of some of the things that Trump did, which he did very little, but his tax cut plan has had a devastating effect on our country and on our economy. And, it's estimated, and I've said this before, by the time that runs its course, they say it's going to add $10 trillion to the national debt.
Yeah.
Okay? Trump is responsible for 25% of the nation's national debt. 25%.
In 4 years, y'all.
But in 4 years. And these fools are out there saying, he's our guy. He's the one I want to vote for. They have no clue whatsoever at what they're doing or saying. That the clip that you referenced about Todd Rokita from Hartman Signal, that's something I'm actually going to use today and make a reel about. Because here we got Todd Rokita, and his name is spelled R-O-K-I-T-A. I spell it R-O-K-K-K-I-T-A because that's who the guy is, okay? That's who he is.
Yes, he is. I know.
He's standing there saying, we're finally going to have a free Indiana. No, wait a minute, Todd. Okay, you're one of the governors that sent a letter to Biden saying you wanted access to women's medical records when they become pregnant. You're the guy who wants to ban abortion clear across the board with absolutely no exceptions. I mean, this is what this guy wants to do. You're the guy that wants to prosecute women if they seek an abortion out of state, even if it's to help their,
their medical
life,
health,
to
right?
save their
lives.
And I can go on.
No, man.
These white Christian racist nationalists believe that being free is getting rid of CRT, and they don't even know what CRT is. And I'm sorry that I'm getting emotional, but man,
see, this is,
it just...
See, Kurt, listen.
It's unbelievable.
Somebody sent me a couple of texts last week where I got really passionate about the conversation around fires. And someone said to me, Richard, you don't have to apologize for your passion. It shows you care. The reason that I like having you on the show and having you as part of what we're doing is it takes this kind of passion to get some stuff done. I'm a firm believer in that. We've sat back too long, comfortable, and not willing to stand up and fight. I just had on Alderman Ray Lopez. He and the mayor are at odds, and I'm gonna have them both on again because if they keep fighting forward to get some stuff done, the city of Chicago benefits. Their approaches are different. They got some issues with each other, and I know that, or else I wouldn't have had them both on at different times. But ultimately, they're both passionate about one thing, and that's the city of Chicago improving. Now, coming back to your passion and mine, look, y'all, maybe some people need to get some passion. Maybe some folks need to get up off their behinds and say, you know what, I'm not just going to say I'm tired of this. I'm going to do something about it. I have the responsibility to do something about it. So to that end, I go back to when you said I'm up and I'm down certain days, and it's because, candidly, you asked a question, and I know many people have asked this question: how did we get here? Incrementally, and because people got comfortable, and now suddenly it's like, oh damn, the roof is not leaking, it's caved in. I need to run, or what am I going to do? And the fix is people have got to incrementally, day to day, hour to hour, day to day, week to week, doing something. And messaging is part of it. Sitting back and having a family gathering and having somebody get to dominate the conversation with garbage, and sitting back and letting that happen because you don't want to piss off your friend or piss off your cousin, that ain't going to work anymore. Right. If that's the case, just, that's not going to work. If you're asking how do we, not you specifically, Kurt, how we fix this.
Right.
I mean,
right.
Did you talk? Let's go. You mentioned referencing some of the smart language that Republicans try to use to throw us off. So let me just put this out to you. I don't know if you saw this or not. So much of the conversation that we've had in recent months and years has been this conversation around DEI, right? And did you see the post?
Which they don't understand what it means.
No, what it means to them is it means black folks and women are going to be empowered. That's that's their mindset. But did you see what Senator Tim Kaine from Virginia posted? When these guys, the GOP members that are complaining about education and reduction of military standards, while using a chart, they literally misspelled the word military. They left the second I out. It's I'll send it to you. And if anybody out there wants to get it to me, I'll get it from me. I'll send it to you. They literally on a chart. That's probably a 36 by 36 chart on a stand, DEI, and then underneath that, the word military is misspelled. They spelled it MILTARY. But yet they get upset with people being woke, people being smart, people being aware. Yeah. But then they do some dumb A stuff like that. Lord have mercy.
I make a lot of content, and I make reels and memes, and a lot of my memes can have a lot of words in it. And, I do most of the stuff on my phone, so there are times I try really hard not to misspell words and make sure I got all my apostrophes, and but sometimes I make a mistake, okay? But when you have something like that, There's more than one set of eyes that were on that, weren't there? Before they put that out there? Right. I mean, don't you think? You would that went through some channels?
Hey, Kurt, they have the staff for it. I mean, that's taxpayer money that are letting these idiots put up and they sent it it went to the printer or some printing. But Kurt, so, we're the stupid ones. Let's defund education.
I know.
All right, man. Speaking of that, our pivot is going to be, I want you to take the lead on.
One more thing. Hey, DEI stands for Don Jr., Eric, and Ivana. That's what DEI stands for.
Oh, so we should get rid of it?
Because those are isn't that what DEI is?
I thought so.
I mean, come on. Anyway, yeah, whatever. I'm sorry.
No, man, that's good. You got to put a post out about that. So listen, y'all. Kurt just said something. He posts some great stuff, and he's so wonderful, and he includes me in the things that he posts, and he tags me when he's leading up to being on the show. Let me tell you guys, he put something out earlier this week that is just spot on. I'm going to read it to you, and then you guys can talk, and then Kurt can take it away. The Indiana GOP is cutting Medicaid services due to a lack of sustainable funding. At the same time, the GOP spent over $2 billion on private school vouchers and is going to allocate an additional $1 billion to sustain and grow the program. This is Project 2025 coming to life in Indiana. Kurt, take it away.
Yeah. Well, this is what's happening in our state and what will be happening in many states. And one of the reasons I've had some emotional swings lately is because I sat down over the weekend and I was reading through Indiana's General Assembly came into session last Wednesday and the bills that have been proposed. And it is just mind-boggling when you start reading through them, some of the just crazy stuff that's going on. And one of the things that Indiana is on the verge of is if Medicaid gets cut by the federal government, it's going to get dropped in the state because we're one of the trigger states that doesn't have the proper funding in order to carry it on. So if Medicaid gets stopped by the government, we're done. Over 750,000 Hoosiers are going to lose Medicaid benefits, okay? And this has happened because of the funding cuts and the things that our Republican-controlled state has done by, reducing the amount of money that they give to the Medicaid out of general fund. They've changed the caregiver compensation program. Instead of investing into assisted living facilities, they created wait list. This was their, can you imagine that you have a loved one that needs to go to an assisted living facility, and because your state, which we have plenty of money, they just put it to different things that they believe in, like, school vouchers for rich kids. Instead of improving those facilities and maybe building some of those or converting some of the empty buildings in our state into, living assisting facilities, let's create a wait list. So your mother who's 92 years old that needs assisted living, well, we don't have any room for her. Let's put her on a wait list. Wait a minute. What am I supposed to do till then? And how long is she going to have to wait? This is the thought process of Republicans, in our state, and then that is around our country. The school voucher program, which they're dumping all this money into, this is part of Project 2025. It's laid out plain. Project 2025 wants to eliminate our Department of Education. They want to eliminate our school districts. They want to give the power of teaching our children to the parents of those children. And people don't understand. They just do not understand what kind of devastation this will have to our education system, to people of color, to people who have disabilities, whether they be physical or learning disabilities. This is going to wreak havoc over our education system. A teacher that goes into a public school system, even though the criteria and what they have to have has been lowered, they still have to have some form of education in order to teach that. Do you know in private schools, They don't really have to have anything. They
No.
can, Jane can come in and teach from 8 to 3 and then go home and bake brownies for the night, I mean, without any education level whatsoever.
Yeah,
and this is what they want to go to.
And it also, what it does is it creates an environment for a curriculum to be one that is potentially racist, sexist for sure.
Oh yeah,
and the list goes on and on. I gotta let me read this to you real quick. Let me find it again. I'm sorry. I got a great text from someone that said, "We on the left have to stop calling the right Christian nationalists. They are evangelical fascists." Damn, that's good. Mm-hmm. I mean, because that's what these school evangelical fascists. That is brilliant, and this is what's driving. I mean, like Rokita is saying, we can raise our children as God intended. Well, did you sit down and talk to God and ask him or her how we're supposed to raise our children without interference by woke schools, doctors, or courts? Wow.
Yep. But you got to understand, our lieutenant governor, Micah Beckwith, he actually has made so many posts and videos about how God talks to him. God spoke to me last night. Just like after January 6th, he made a reel or a post in his car that God told him last night, those people that attacked our Capitol on January 6th, I sent them there. I sent them to fight. I mean, these people are nuts, man. They are freaking nuts.
Well, listen, here's the thing that you and I are going to develop. It was recommended to me, and I agree with this recommendation as a way to talk about this in a bigger space and the impact, because you said this. Project 2025 is coming to life in Indiana, and you furthered by saying it's something that's going to. This is our state doing those things, and I think that given that we're neighboring states, and given that you're there and you're so well informed and plugged in, we need to spend some more time talking about what's happening in the quote unquote, as it was sent to me, nearby laboratory of fascist autocracy. Those words roll off just right. Nearby laboratory of fascist autocracy. That's what we are. And like this text that was sent to me said, like I said, we on the left have to stop calling the right Christian nationalists. They are evangelical fascists. My. Kurt.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. I mean, and hey, I appreciate the time that we get to talk and everything, but man, we could do a 3-hour podcast and just scratch the surface of the craziness that's going on right now in our country and the things that are about to take place. And it's absolutely scary. And I'm just trying to stay positive over the weekend because, I've already decided I'm celebrating Martin Luther King.
Yeah.
I'm not paying attention to anything else on Monday. So,
well, that's a question.
Once again, dude, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, as always. Well, you sound better this week. I know last week was challenging, but that's why I wanted to keep my arm around you, because we're brothers in this fight, and we're going. See, Kurt, here's the blessing of what's happening. I believe we have the opportunity to reach people who feel like they have been forgotten in this conversation. And so, it's not an accident that cats like you and myself were able to find each other, because as well as I do that there are other people out there that are yelling for help because they've gone into their silo. And that's one of the responsibilities I think that we have, but it's also an opportunity to help folks know that we're here to provide them with that support and that energy so that they can go out and do their thing as well. So
people are scared, and we need to offer them protection. And however we do that.
Absolutely. Well, listen, man, great to be with you this morning, and
you too.
We got lots more to talk about, and I like the idea that 3-hour podcast. Maybe we need to go ahead and follow my own recommendations and garden and seed that to fruition. So there you go.
Dude, when we get together sometime, it's going to be
Yeah, I know. Just close down the venue where we are. All right, man. Listen, have a great day.
Thanks, brother.
And I appreciate your call and your time this morning. There he goes, guys. Kurt Mullet. Who's Your Blue 63? Check him out. The things that he posts, guys, it'll wake you up. It'll get your attention. And appreciate Kurt being with us this morning. Quick break, 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we'll be right back.
You're listening to Choose Views with Richard Chu on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey, guys, welcome back to Choose Views, 773-763-9278. We have some great people that send us some really fun texts, and I try to get to them real time. But thank you guys who have sent me text messages this morning at our 773-763-9278 number. Give us a call, as always. And some of the things I can't read on the air, but just know that I'm reading them and trying to respond in kind. I talked a little bit earlier, and thanks for Kurt Mullet for being with us this morning. I talked a little bit earlier about what some of the elected officials in different states are doing. You're hearing about this legislation in Ohio, in Indiana, and tomorrow we're going to talk a little bit about some things that are happening over in Ohio. But, you know, the folks up in Wisconsin are acting a doggone fool as well in terms of not seating people who are duly elected. They're breaking the rules. And here's another example. Mike Johnson is looking to raise the Capitol flags for Trump, potentially violating flag display code because of the flags being flown at half-mast as a result of the 30-day window with President Carter's passing. Just a bunch of punks breaking the rules. We want it this way, so this is what we're going to do. Be damn the rules. But these are the same people that go on and on about decorum and on and on about the rule of law and following the rules. And these are the same people that say when a young black teen gets pulled over, if he had just complied and done everything the right way, they wouldn't have assaulted him and shot him. But these are the same MFers that are breaking the rules. He wants to raise the flags. They want to fly them at full staff. Come on, Mike Johnson. You know, stop lying. Stop trying to be this God warrior. You are not a God warrior. You are not. The stuff that you've done and been behind, for those who believe in whoever they believe in from a faith standpoint, that's not what the dude Jesus and the dude God would have been an advocate for, or Allah or Buddha and all the rest, as I've said so many times. They wouldn't be down with that, and you guys know it. But Mike Johnson wants to pretend like he's the God warrior. I was sent here. And like Kurt said, these other fools are saying that I got a message. Okay, you got the wrong message. You weren't paying attention. She did not say to do this or that. You're just lying. And you got a bunch of people who are too damn stupid and willfully ignorant and stubborn to not be hoodwinked. They kind of want to be in some ways. I'm not going to give them enough credit, and I'm not going to apologize for that, because you all know you got people in your own world. They're just willfully ignorant and stupid. If you're offended by that, then maybe it's like the phrase those I want to say that on the air. Those that are yelling the loudest about that are oftentimes the ones that it impacts the most. I had to clean that up because there's an old phrase that I want to use, and I probably would have offended some pet owners, so I'm going to keep that clean. Lord have mercy. New Jersey announces it's stockpiling abortion pills before Trump takes office. Governor Phil Murphy is expected to make an announcement. I think he did make the announcement yesterday. It's joining a handful of other states in stockpiling abortion drug mifepristone as the country heads into Trump's term. Kudos to Governor Murphy for making that announcement yesterday. But damn, America. Damn. I mean, just damn. But we have to keep in the fight. We just do. You know, we're down a touchdown, and our team has got to forge ahead, to use a football analogy. All right. More clips that speak to the science. And I'm pivoting a little bit here because this is something I've been wanting to talk about. Someone asked me the question, Richard, how can I help? with regard to the fires in Southern California. And I want to read something to you, and then we have a couple of clips that we're going to play that get into the smart people, the science regarding what's happening. Here's how you can donate. Now, let me back up. The recent fires that have been devastating Los Angeles and causing this damage, a lot of, and this is personal to me, a lot of families that have been impacted were in the very predominant black neighborhood of Altadena. And they're also rebuilding, just like those in many other communities. So this is something that's important to all communities. But I was asked to talk about specifically how folks can help in this space. And here's how you can help. Donate essential items or funds to organizations like Walk Good LA and It's Bigger Than Us, are two other organizations that you can Google. Support GoFundMe campaigns that are specifically contributing to the folks in the Altadena area and community. Most definitely spread awareness, and any platform that you're on. One of the organizations that you can look into is BMA Coalition, and then volunteer locally. Those who are on the West Coast in the specific region by going to Think Watts Foundation, and then obviously advocacy groups that are in the area that can be a way for you to forge ahead in helping people locally and do something tangible. And in the same breath, did you guys see the list of the senators and of the senators on the right, the Republican senators? John Kennedy, Mike Lee, Rand Paul, James Risch, Mitt Romney when he was in, Eric Schmidt, and then the numbers of House members that voted against the preservation and the sustainability of our forests and our land forest areas. They voted against money to support preserving those areas. But yet these are the first ones that say stupid things like we're gonna before California gets any support, we're going to attach some requirements to it. No, you're not. No, you're not. You might try that. You might want to talk about it that way, but you're not going to do that. Because here's the thing that's so crazy about it. These same Republicans ran their behinds off to Mar-a-Lago to kiss the orange ones behind while people... See, this is the thing. Republicans are punks. I said it. And any of the weak Democrats that are, same thing. But Republicans... Look at what happened when we had power issues in Texas. One of the senators, you all know who I'm talking about, Rafael Cruz, decided to go off to Cancun. Republicans in California decided to leave and go to Mar-a-Lago. Now, I'm not saying that they should have, quote, stayed there, but they ran down to kiss the orange ones behind. That's just unacceptable, guys. From the same people who say we're going to put, the same party, we're going to put certain restrictions and strings on helping God's children, for those who want to put it in the religious vein. You're going to put guidelines, but you didn't put those guidelines on the folks in other areas of need. And need is need. I'm not calling it based on political parties. Need is need. But yet this is a party that says, oh yeah, we're going to put the strings and the attachments and the requirements on. When in fact, we have a laundry list of Republicans who voted against the very thing that would have helped to slow down the ravaging of these fires. Hypocrisy at its best. So, we're going to take a little bit of a quick stab at what a professor has to say about the fires, not Republicans.
The fires have been blamed on ageing infrastructure and water shortages. Can you just walk us through how you see those issues playing into this fire?
I think they're minimal and minuscule. When you have winds of 100 miles an hour, you are not a firefighter. As one fire boss told me, at 10 miles an hour, I'm a firefighter. It's anything over 30, and I'm an observer. And if it hits 45, there's no aerial support to this process, which is how you fight fire in really steep topography. So no one could have done anything to have stopped. It's like trying to stop a typhoon. You can't do it. So you work on the edges. You work in the places where you are able to fight and hold the line and get people out of there, which is really what they did for the first 24 hours. The blame game drives me crazy because they're not paying attention to the natural issues that are here. But, you know, that is politics.
Okay. So I'm gonna slightly tap myself on the back. Last Wednesday, I think I said that Republicans need to shut the hell up about the blame game because topography, played it back. I said it only because I've been there. I know. And I'm not trying to, it's not about me. It's about, I was trying to get folks' attention passionately about this. Topography, wind, and the lack of the ability to abate that with retardant. And I gave the example, Henry, drive your car down the street at 60 miles an hour and have embers coming at you. Now drive it at 80 and see how horrifying that is. So I'm not trying to take credit for anything other than the fact that I said this is something. Yes, we understand water issues. People can debate that all day long. But at the end of the day, let's rewind the clock 2, 4, 8, 10, 12, 20 years back when we were screaming about environmental issues. And here we are. Let's listen to the scientists, people. Stop listening to these damn knuckleheads on the right and the weak Democrats who won't step up. That stuff is over with. We have 2 clips that I want you guys to hear. Let's take a quick break, come back, and then we're going to bring you some information that I think is also equally important and where we are, what our federal officials are trying to do to make some things better for people. 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we'll be right back.
It's Choose Views with Richard Chu on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey guys, welcome back to Choose Views. In our last segment, I wanted to hit you with a couple more clips that Henry and I put together that I think are important. And these are from Jake Sullivan, 2 clips particularly. The first one I want to talk about with regard to the fires, and then we'll get to the next one in a second.
The president has had to deal over the last 4 years with many different kinds of natural disasters in the United States in every part of this country, in the Southeast, the Southwest, the Midwest, the Northeast, and now in California. And he's abided by a very simple principle, which is this is not about red states and blue states. It's not about Republican and Democrat. These are all Americans who are struggling and suffering in the face of these wildfires, and they deserve the support and the help of the federal government. And the aid that is flowing to ensure that these fires get fought effectively, that homes get saved, that communities get rebuilt. That's the same kind of aid that has gone to hurricanes in North Carolina and Florida and to wildfires in Idaho and Arizona. And so we really shouldn't play politics with this, and we certainly shouldn't play games with it. This aid has got to flow, and President Biden, as we speak, is preparing for another briefing in the building behind me with his experts on this issue. Because day in and day out since these wildfires started, this has been his primary focus. He canceled the trip to stay here to work on this, and he's going to fight every day he is president. And as you say, that's less than a week now to make sure the aid goes where it belongs.
Not once during any of the tragedies that we've had has a Democratic president, to my knowledge, pointed fingers and saying, we're going to hold you up, or the party in general, the Democratic Party, the progressive liberal Democrats. So shut up, Republicans. I'm tired of you all playing. And listen, I get trolled a lot, Henry. Shut up to you all, too. Stop trolling Joan and Patty, calling people hacks and saying we don't know what we're talking about. At least what we're not doing is standing in the way of progress. I don't get it right all the time. I proudly tell you that I don't know everything. But stop getting in the way of progress with the garbage that you guys put out there across the board, social media, trying to call out Stephanie, trying to call out Tom Hartman, trying to call out Dean Obadala and the folks on SiriusXM and all the rest of our partners in the progressive conversation. Y'all need to go sit your behinds down because we're trying to move the conversation forward. Imperfect as it may be, there hasn't been one Democrat that said we aren't going to send any money to North Carolina or the Carolinas or Florida or any place. Just like Jake Sullivan said, we stepped up and said we're going to help Americans because they're Americans. So Republicans, you all need to shut the blank up. Let us run this because we get it done better. Not perfectly, but better. And get out of the way of legislation that's going to help when it comes to climate change. You all don't know a damn thing about it. You're leaning on God. God gave us purview over the decisions we make about our environment, which is a blessing to have on planet Earth. But you all want to say, oh, God's going to come and fix it. No, he's not. She said, you all are responsible for this. And Republicans keep getting in the way using God as a tool to beat people upside the head with. And we all have to be done with that. And the fight is right here, right now. We got another clip that talks about what this administration is doing and how we have to continue to remember that this president, Joe Biden, has done so many things to help so many people. And I don't want to rob what Jake Sullivan's about to say, but this is a measure of what our current president has been trying to do.
Look, I would describe us as being inside the 1 yard line at this point, and that makes you so achingly close to being in the end zone. But of course, as you know well, you can be inside the 1 yard line, the game can end, and you end up without the touchdown. So we're so close, but not quite there. What's it going to take to push it through? Basic will, particularly on the part of Hamas, to say yes. We are at a point now today, right now, where the negotiators in Qatar are reporting back to the president and me here to say Israel is basically there on a deal on the table that can work. And now it's up to Hamas to come in and say yes. There's reason to believe that they may lean forward to do so, but I'm not going to take any kind of celebration or victory lap unless and until they actually do. And instead, we're just going to work every last minute of every last day to see if we can get this done.
So, Jake, there's only 7 days left of the administration. You guys are very close, it seems, but you never know. That's very hard to get done in that period of time. If this doesn't happen in the next week, is it dead? I mean, the next president has a very different view of the type of power or any limitations on power Netanyahu should have.
It's a really good question. What I found over the last 7 or 8 months that we've really been bearing down on the ceasefire proposal that President Biden put forward is that we've gotten close, and then it hasn't worked out, and then there's been a period where the two parties have really pulled away from one another. And so there's been this rhythm of get close, it falls apart, then get far apart. And my fear is that if this does not happen in just the next few days, there will be a period where the two parties move away from one another and where the fighting continues unabated without a real opportunity to bring this home. So now is the moment, and that is a big part of the case that we are making in the room in Qatar as we speak. Brett McGurk, the president's top Middle East advisor, has been camped out there for the last 8 days. I'm on speed dial with him every few hours, and our hope is that we can actually bring this across the finish line in the coming hours or days.
So, fingers crossed. And, you know, I had a moment of thought the other day that if we can get this done, you know, that would be just beautiful for the region, beautiful for the world. So Jake puts it as best he can in that space. Let's grab one last quick call to talk a little bit about the fires, and I've got a comment I want to make regarding that as we wrap up. Go ahead. We got Brock from Chicago. Hey, Brock, you got the mic for a minute or so.
Hot topic. Same thing with the Chicago fire. Great Chicago fire. Devastating, as we all know. We lost the pump when the roof collapsed, and so then we didn't have water in the hydrants throughout the area to save our city. What did Chicago learn? Chicago learned that you had to have a pumping station that is unable to fail. California, unfortunately, is learning the same thing, that the number one thing is water. And unfortunately, we're going to have to sacrifice some other aspects of modern society in order to make sure that you have water.
Well, I mean, a good point in terms of improving things and what do we learn. And I'm going to lean into the science and the scientists and those who understand. I personally understand that topography also is a key element. And let's go, if you're going to talk about the Chicago fire, Brock, in all honesty, the ability for wood to catch on fire quickly was also one of the accelerants. And so wind also impacted that. And we can't get away from that. Listen, I know people want to have a debate and make it political and say California should do better. They messed up the water supply, the pumping. I understand all that. Believe me, I do. up close and personal. So I hear what you're having to say in that space, and I know where you're coming from, and I appreciate your contribution in that space. It's about what do we learn to make things better. One of the things we got to learn is we got to stop denying climate change. If somebody comes to me and say because climate change does not exist, I can't have a long conversation with them because they're not paying attention. So we have multiple things that we have to fix, but it starts with the awareness that there's a problem in the first place. So I appreciate your comments, Brock. We're wrapping up the show. Thanks for calling in your to Choose Views this morning. So, I hear what he's saying, and candidly, as much as all of us have to learn something from these incidents, the number one thing we have to learn and acknowledge is that climate change is a part of this. 8 months without any real significant rainfall, and then you have this happen, and then the element of wind accelerates that too. Listen, if the scientists, the engineers that are there have been saying that it is fighting what did he call it? A tsunami? Okay. Drop air. If the aircraft can't get up, guys, I've said this before, and people just want to keep pushing back on this. We need to fix the pumps. Well, if you can't drop, everybody that's an expert in this space will say from the air when it's this bad is the fix, because you can't put enough men or women on the ground with water hoses and the best pumps on the planet. It has to be fought from the air. They all know this. So, guys, stop lying to yourselves about this. That's a big part of this, and they weren't able to get off the ground to do the work. All right. Altadena, not predominantly black, high percentage black, and I was asked to reference where people who are in that community can go for help and services, and how people who want to help can help. I was specifically asked, Richard, what are some tools that you can broadcast about that? And that was my objective earlier. So just to remind people that I'm not leaning into any stereotypes about an area that has a black population needing more help than others. I'm leaning into people asking me to give information that can be helpful to those who are in need in Altadena, a community that has a strong African-American population that is in need, just like that I said about the Palisades and all the rest. So for those who want to troll me and say I was playing the race card, too bad. I wasn't playing the race card. I was saying that community, which has a strong black population, there were people who asked me to point out some areas and ways in which they could tangibly help. So there. I hope that makes it clear for those who think I needed to clean that up on aisle 7. What a track meet today, Henry. Guys, it's always great to be with you. And as I say every day, bringing the best that we can to make sure that you guys have something to chew on. And tomorrow's going to be a fun show as well. We're going to have our friend Kurt Herner from Ohio, along with some other guests, and a little bit of surprise interview that we were able to do. Guys, I have to say, take a deep breath and make your life count. We'll see you tomorrow.